Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again with a quick conversation about the DJI Air 3 drone. And in this video, I'll try and explain why I think DJI has built the perfect consumer drone with the Air 3. And I know there's a lot of other drones in the market, and if you're flying a drone today and you love it, that's just great. I'm not looking to start a fight over who's got a better drone, but when I look at the Air 3, I think about all the things that I'd want in a drone, and DJI has built all of those features and functions into a drone that isn't the biggest drone flying, it's not the smallest drone flying, but it's in that Goldilocks zone right in the middle where it's small enough to take on vacation, but still big enough to put up in a wind and not worry about the drone being buffeted all over the place. And the features are just jam-packed inside this drone. So when I look at the Air 3, I think to myself, what more could I want? Is there a feature they haven't built into the drone that I'll be coveting for the next drone release? I couldn't find a single one. And beyond that, they've improved pretty much everything about this ecosystem that supports the Air 3 up in the air. And I'll get into all that in a minute. So let's talk about some of the modifications they've made over older drones that were out. So for starters, the drone flies an incredible 46 minutes in the air, and that's because of these new batteries that they've come out with. They've got incredibly energy-dense batteries that are quick charging. You can put them in a charger like that, like the hub. You can charge them in the drone. As long as you're using a 65 watt PD charger, or even better, a 100 or 140 watt charger, you can charge those batteries so quickly that they'll charge while you're flying in the air. So if you have 3 batteries with you and you have a charger with you, or a power bank that can put out 65 watts or 140 watts, you can actually charge the batteries in the hub while you're flying. And when you land, take out a fully charged battery, put it in the drone, and put it back up in the air, so you could essentially fly forever as long as you've got a power source with you out in the field. So I think they've really hit a limit as far as the flight time goes. I love that. They've improved the flight distance as well. With the new OcuSync technology, this drone can fly up to 20 kilometers away. Now again, in the United States, we have a visual line of sight requirement where you can't fly the drone further than you can see it, but knowing I've got a 20 kilometer connection distance means I've got a rock solid connection in close where it counts, behind trees, behind a building. If I've got Wi-Fi interference, I have no fear that I'm gonna lose connection between the drone and the remote controller. It's just gonna be a rock solid connection because again, it's not just basic Wi-Fi connectivity between the two. They're using OcuSync, which is a proprietary DJI technology that essentially frequency hops across the 2.4 gigs and the 5.8 gigahertz bands and looks for the cleanest frequency, but it's constantly monitoring the other frequencies as well. So if this one gets busy all of a sudden, it can jump to the next most powerful frequency. So there's a constant communication going on between the drone and the controller to make sure that connection is rock solid. And 20 kilometers is an incredibly long distance to fly with the drone. But again, don't fly that long if you're in the United States. The other thing I love about the drone is they've got a dual camera system on the front. Now, they've introduced that before in the Mavic 3. There's a lot of discussions about, this, does it work, doesn't it work? I love the fact that they've got 2 sensors in there. They're both 1 over 1.3 inch sensors, which is a really big sensor to have in a single camera, let alone 2 cameras. One of them is a wide angle lens, the other one is a medium telephoto lens, and between the two, it gives you a lot of creative opportunity to sort of get the exact shot you need. But more importantly, when you're flying a drone, you don't want to get too close to a subject, because if you're trying to film a horse or you're trying to follow a horse, if you get too close, you're going to spook the horse. If there's wildlife you're trying to film and you get too close to the duck's going to get scared and fly off. Well, with the medium telephoto, I can pull in as tight as I need to in most cases and stay very far away. So a lot of times that piece of real estate doesn't even know that I'm flying around it, or if there's an animal out there, it doesn't even know that I'm flying near it. So I love the fact that I've got wide angle lens for those beautiful landscape shots of them flying over a field or a forest or a lake, and I've got the medium telephoto to be able to pull in tight from a distance away and not disturb that animal or that person or whatever it happens to be. They've also somehow made the drone quieter, which I think is absolutely amazing. And again, there must be teams of engineers that are working on the battery technology, the camera technology, the propulsion system. This drone, I'm telling you, I've put it up against all the drones that I own. It's hands down the quietest mid-sized drone I've ever flown. And that's saying a lot. So between the way the propellers are designed, the way the ESC to the motors is controlled, they've got analog ESCs now where they're doing better than the older digital ESCs. So all of that together, whatever team worked on the propulsion system really needed to knock down that noise, and they did a great job. So it's incredibly quiet in the air. I also love the fact that they give you an ecosystem of choice when you're buying the drone. So you can pick up the drone, you've got a choice between controllers. Now again, this is a hot debate. A lot of people like the original controller, the RCN1. Actually, it's an RCN2 because of the new OcuSync. But the RCN2 gives you the ability to use your phone or use a tablet holder and use a large tablet. Now, a lot of folks like to fly with a big tablet. When I first started flying years and years ago, I used to use a big tablet until I realized, man, is that tablet top heavy? And boy, a bigger screen like that's really tough to see in bright sunlight. Then you got to get a hood for it. So it's a whole thing. Now, there are a lot of new tablets out that have 1,000 nits, 1,200 nits, 1,500 nits that are really, really bright. So if you're in that camp, maybe that works best for you. I like the integrated controller though. I like the DJI RC2, which is the integrated controller with the screen in it. Now, to be fair, this screen is only 700 nits, so it's not incredibly bright, but it's really easy to add a flip-up hood to this to give you a little bit of shade. But the reason I like this one over the original, the RCN2, is that everything's in the controller. So when I'm ready to fly, I've charged my controller, I've charged my batteries in the hub, I've only got two things to keep track of. I can head out, boot up the drone, boot up the controller, put it up in the air, and just have a great afternoon of flying. So it gives me everything I need. But I certainly understand the advantages of going with the RCN2 if you like to use your phone because it's incredibly bright, or you don't mind hooking up a cable and rebooting it and getting an application and making sure they're synced up and all the rest of that. This one will work fine as well. But I think it's a great thing that a drone company gives you the choice between these because you may like that better than this one, and I like this one better than that one. So choice is always a good thing. I also love the fact that they came out with a smart charging hub. Now, this is a major improvement over their other charging hubs. DJI has constantly innovated in the drone space. I talk about it an awful lot. There are a lot of drone companies out there that follow DJI's lead, but they were hands down the first company in this kind of a hub environment where they said, you know what? You've got these batteries, which are miniature power plants. How do we charge them out in the field? Or better yet, how can I charge them at home so that the consumer doesn't have to keep track of which battery is being charged? Now, if you have the drone in a single battery, you can certainly plug it into a charger. Again, a 65-watt charger is the minimum you'll need. 100 or 140 watts is even better. It'll charge it faster. And you're safe with all three of those. But if you want to charge it in the drone, you're plugging a USB-C connection into the back of the drone, which again is a major innovation. A lot of other companies use proprietary chargers. Heaven forbid that charger goes bad, you got to find a charger. With this, you can use anybody's charger as long as it's 65 watts PD or 100 or 140 watts PD. You can charge the batteries quickly in the drone. But if you've got multiple batteries, the hub is a really good option because it allows you to pop 3 batteries in the hub. Now, each of these batteries are intelligent, right? There's a controller inside of the battery that's monitoring the voltage, the current, the temperature. It's balancing the charge across the cell. So there's a brain inside the battery. There's also a brain inside the hub. So there's a conversation going on between the hub and the batteries when you connect up a power supply and drop batteries into the hub. And the hub is saying, all right, of you batteries that are in here, which one of you needs the least amount of charge? That one, I'm going to charge you first. And it fully charges that battery. Then it moves on to the next one. Then it moves on to the next one. So it's like a traffic cop that's watching the health of the batteries, the charge level of the batteries, and it's doing your work for you so you can plug it into a single charger, go get a cup of coffee. Always keep it in eyesight because you shouldn't charge LiPo batteries when you're not around, but it'll charge the batteries and walk through the batteries to save you time, to get you out the door as quickly as possible. Now, two of the things that I think the engineers that designed the hubs, going way back to the first version, thought of, which again, I have to hand it to them for brilliant engineering, is they thought about it and they said, you know what, these batteries are really like a miniature power plant. And wouldn't it be good if I could come out with an adapter to plug into the battery that had a USB-A port on it that allowed me to charge something from the residual energy in the battery? Because when you're out flying, you put the drone up, you come down with 25% of battery left, you land it because you want to be safe. Well, the battery's got 25% of its capacity still charged. So you've got a really decent power plant here. And DJI said, gee, if I could come out with an adapter that plugs onto the battery with a USB-A connection, you could plug something in there and charge your controller or charge your phone or charge your camera or whatever. So originally, before they came out with the hubs, they had adapters that would plug into the batteries to do exactly that. Well, the hub now does that. So all I have to do is slide this in the hub. Could be a single battery, doesn't matter. And I've got a full-sized USB-C port on the side. I can plug a cable in here and charge external devices from it. The thing they did with this hub, which again, that team that's working on the charging hub is thinking about what else can we do with the hub to amaze our customers out there. This hub is smart enough that if I've got 2 batteries that are maybe 40%, maybe I've landed them early, but I don't trust putting it back up with 40% in the battery. If I put those batteries in here and drop in a 3rd battery, I can hold the button in, and what it'll do is take the charge that's left in those batteries and supply it to that 3rd battery to charge it up again. So maybe I've dropped 2 in at 40% and 1 at 80%. I'll hit the button while I'm driving to my next location. It'll steal 20% from each of those batteries and charge that third battery. So it's giving me, not only is it giving me a hub that I can use to charge the batteries smart and quickly and safely, but it's giving me the brains inside the controller to say, hey, you guys are holding on to a lot of a charge. I'll put some of that back in the battery that Rick's going to use next when he's out there flying to get him back to 90 or 100% of the battery. So what a wonderful product, right? Pretty amazing. So all these things being equal, you've got a drone that flies longer than any drone DJI has built in this category. It flies further. It has great battery technology. It's got a great charging hub. You got a choice between controllers. The thing that still blows me away more than anything else are the safety features built into the drone, which is really something you should be concerned about, because even though you trust it over time, you're always worried that you're going to run into a tree or the drone's going to lose its mind and fly off towards the horizon. Well, they've built a ton of safety features in that will trigger a return to home. So if things like the battery level gets too low, the drone realizes that, it's going to immediately trigger that return to home. It's going to elevate to the height you've set in the application, spin to face your home point, fly back to where it took off, and land within inches of its takeoff point, which is absolutely amazing. If anything happens in the communication strategy, same thing happens, return to home. If something funky happens inside the drone, maybe the compass isn't operating correctly, or maybe the gyros are a little bit off balance, the drone's going to go, you know what, I'm not feeling so great, I'm heading for home. So those safety features will protect you from losing the drone. It also has the ability that there's a beacon inside the drone that, heaven forbid, you crash the drone. And I just had an incident a couple of weeks ago where I crashed a drone into a tree. You can use the controller to find the drone. It's like finding my phone. I can actually use the controller and walk over and find where that drone is hanging in the tree. And then I got to get up there and shake it loose. So that feature's built in. But in addition to that, this drone has 360-degree obstacle avoidance. So you've got sensors. There's sensors all over it that are constantly looking for solid objects around the drone. And if you're getting too close because you're being a little cavalier, the drone will see that solid object and pull back. It'll prevent you from crashing into it. So that's a great feature. But the cool feature is they've got artificial intelligence inside the drone that'll actually take it a step further. Now, I've done clips on this before, but the APAS feature built into this, which is the Automated Pilot Assistance System, is really the brains inside the unit that's using the crash avoidance sensors, the cameras, to look at an environment. And if it's looking for that environment, it immediately identifies where the solid objects are, but that system is looking for the holes between those solid objects. So if you fly into a heavily wooded area, the drone will already know where the holes are that it can fit through, and it'll dodge all the obstacles and continue on its mission through that complex environment. That's amazing technology. If it did just that, I'd be blown away by it, but it does that and so much more. They've also built in a ton of automated flight patterns that makes the average flyer an amazing flyer. So if you put this thing up for the first time, you can actually hit a button and have it circle an object and capture some incredibly good footage or really good pictures. You can do 360-degree views of the area around you. You can do wide panoramas if you want. You can have it swoop down at something. You can have it chase something. So if you zero in on an object like your car or your bicycle or your skateboard and hit the button, it'll fly and follow you while it's dodging objects. So I don't know what much more you can ask for in a drone. Like I said at the beginning, I think DJI has really taken this to another level in the consumer space. Now again, they're enterprise drones that are more sophisticated and bigger, but they're enterprise drones that are used for commercial environments. This could be used for commercial too. I'm not saying it can't be, but this is purely a consumer drone. And I think at this point, this is hands down the best consumer drone flying today. That's my opinion. I've been flying it for a couple of months. I've had it out almost every day flying it, except for the time when I crashed it into a tree, which was totally my fault. It had nothing to do with the drone. It was completely Rick's fault. But anyway, besides that couple of days where I didn't have the drone, this is a brand new one. It's been flying almost every day that we haven't had rain. So I love it. I think you're going to love it as well. And again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this quick review helpful. See you soon. And until next time, as always, stay nerdy.